All right, hello everyone. Welcome to American Dreams Radio. Nice to be with you. Always a pleasure. We venture out to the great state of Iowa today to talk to an incredible gentleman who's spent his life working on conservation and saving the planet. Really, one crop at a time, I guess. His name is John Osenbaugh, and he has a little company called Prairie Seed Farms. And I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about who he is and what they do at Prairie Seed Farms. John, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Roger.
It's truly a pleasure to have you. I was reading through your website and looking at some of your information at prairieseedfarms.com, and I found fascinating things there that I just didn't know. And I didn't even know there was a marketplace for what I guess would be described as kind of natural habitat, or maybe you can describe what you guys do exactly.
Well, Roger, I've known my mission of life since I was in grade school is to revegetate land as far as I can see into permanent vegetation to stop soil erosion from water and wind. For 9 years, I walked to and from a one-room country schoolhouse across many fields and was saddened by all the gullies and ditches and cockroaches and sandbirds, etc. My parents were avid conservationists and inspired me that our soil was very precious to mankind and it needed to be taken care of for all of mankind. At that time, I thought I'd be rich when I became an adult and buy rundown land and bulldozers and repair and seed land to protected vegetation, and then sell the land to new owners and make them promise that they'd never put it into row crops again and leave it in protected vegetation. I've never became rich, so I never accomplished my dream of fixing land with bulldozers, but I still have that passion of revegetating the land with protected vegetation and let Mother Nature heal the land. I've expanded the geographic area goal from as far as I can see to all the land from the Missouri River to the Atlantic Ocean, and with the help of many customers, we are making big progress of accomplishing my dream of revegetating the land into protected cover and wildlife habitat. When I was young, we had a lot of wildlife, but modern farming methods have depleted a lot of our habitat, and we have lost a lot of our wildlife. So revegetating with prairie species has a double goal of protecting our natural resources and building habitat for wildlife, and this year has been very rewarding as our bird populations have exploded in the prairie fields I and my customers have seeded down during the last 35 years I've been in business.
So let me just ask you. Let me interrupt you for a second because
yeah.
I never even think about that. But I used to be a member of a group called Unlimited Pheasants, and we would go out and beg farmers to leave a little bit of space between the fence rows and the crops because our bird populations were way down. Pheasant were disappearing. They still are.
Yes.
And so I really relate to what you do because, you see these populations, these animal populations just disappear. And as hard as guys try, I mean, we used to raise thousands of pheasants, John, in a barn and hatch them and get them out in the field just to try and keep the sport alive, the hunting sports and stuff. But it's just you can't keep up with it. I guess every inch of ground has so much value to a farmer that they just don't want to leave any for the wildlife. So you're helping people restore land to its original purpose, I guess, is the point, right?
Right, and most of the fence rows have disappeared also. So, like you was talking, at least the pheasants could get to the fence rows and save some of the birds, but most of the fence rows have been removed so that the farmer can farm, every square foot of the ground. And raising birds in captivity, lots of people have done that and are still trying to do that, but it just seems like the survival rate when you turn those birds loose is very low, and it's just not a very rapid way of increasing bird population. So improving habitat is by far the fastest way and most economical way of rebuilding our bird populations.
Yeah, well, as a growing up in Southern Oregon as a bird hunter, it's pretty sad to see the population is almost decimated, and I guess it's a national crisis. I mean, isn't our bee population also in great decline?
Sure is, Roger. We only have about a third of our honeybees left, and we only have 10% of our monarch butterflies left. And just the general insect population has dropped. So now the government is really pushing monarch butterfly pollinator mixes. We actually have a project. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has a project they call it the Monarch Butterfly I-35 Corridor Project. And so if you own land in any county that borders Interstate 35 in Iowa and Missouri, and I assume it goes clear from Mexico to Canada, because supposedly the monarch butterfly spends the winters in Mexico and the summers in Canada, and that's hard to believe the monarch butterfly will move back and forth that much like geese do, but they do. So if you own land along the Iowa 35, like Interstate 35, you can, in Iowa, you can plant pollinator mixes, and the seed is 100% paid for by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in combination with what we call the Prairie Partners Program here in Iowa, which is funded by us seed dealers that belong to the Native Grass Seed Growers Association, which there's 5 of us prairie seed growers that belong to that association. So, the monarch butterfly population is only 10% of what it used to be, and so it's become a very critical situation. And in California, the almond industry, I guess, is suffering because they depend heavily on, I believe it's a honeybee population to do the pollinating for them before they can raise the almond nuts. So, and supposedly I've read where 75% of our fruit production comes from pollinators. So establishing a habitat to increase our pollinator population is a very important critical need.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can see that. I know that the farmers here where I'm at, we grow a lot of peaches and pears here, and they really move a lot of honeybees around. It's a big deal here, the honeybees,
Yes.
And they're very, very concerned about it. A lot of guys, and I've been a conservative radio personality for years, John, and one of the things we've always kind of made fun of farmers getting paid not to farm, but I'm learning from you that maybe that's not the right mental state of mind to have. That maybe we ought to be doing more of that. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, you're right. You're right, Roger. We have a surplus of corn and soybeans right now, and we have a deficit in the amount of pollinator habitat areas. So, I think we're doing society less than you might say by increasing the acres for the pollinators, because they're in a critically short supply right now, and at the same time we have a surplus in corn and soybeans. So it just makes sense to de-emphasize subsidizing the corn and soybean farmer right now and subsidizing the industry is creating all these pollinator habitats.
How dangerously low is our topsoil supply out there? Is it really important to protect right now, or I mean, I keep hearing stories from guys that we're losing or we've lost a lot of it or most of it. Can you hit on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think in Iowa they figure we got 40% of our topsoil left, so it's becoming another crisis that we need to emphasize more conservation farming and no-till farming to try to preserve and stretch out the remaining supply of our topsoil. And I think Iowa State University figures in Iowa we're losing topsoil 5 times at a sustainable rate. As you get into highly erosive areas like southern Iowa and northern Missouri, we're losing topsoil like 20 times the sustainable rate. So, conserving our soil with these perennial vegetation, pollinator mix, etc., is very important.
So really, guys like you are quiet heroes out there in a way because you're trying to save the country from a lot of. I mean, I hate to always turn to blame corporate farming and big cash crops, but that isn't that part of the problem.
Well, yeah, I'm flattered that you would call people like us heroes, but I guess looking at it from a third party standpoint, yeah, I'd have to agree with you that um, yeah, it's a lot more important to, I mean, it's very important to save our topsoils for future generations because we never know when we're going to need that topsoil back, and there's no way to get it back. The topsoil, once it leaves it, actually, in addition to losing production, we're contaminating streams and like the Gulf of Mexico, all of our herbicides and our fertilizers and are winding up in the Gulf of Mexico, and they have like a 50 square mile area down there where aquatic life can't even live anymore because it's contaminated with our soils and the herbicides and fertilizer that we needed right here on our own ground.
Right. Well, I've seen that up here with our rivers and our salmon populations and things. You've got to be really careful about soil erosion and I mean, I've always been kind of a conservationist, not much I guess as an environmentalist, but as a conservationist. I grew up in the wilderness. I grew up hunting and fishing, and I love the land. So I hate to see it destroyed. I understand we have to develop natural resources to have wealth, and I understand that we have to grow food to survive. But we need to be, I think, better stewards of the land, and that's I think where you guys come in the seed business is you're helping people become better stewards of the land. You're working with certain entities of the government to make sure that people can find some reasons to do that. So I'm after spending a little time on your website and learning about what you do, I'm a huge fan, and I just wanted you to know that. That's why I wanted to interview you. You guys are just awesome. Tell me a little bit more about the company and the people that work for you, John.
Okay, our companies are very small with only 10 year-round employees. They're very smart, experienced employees with about 175 years of total longevity and experience in raising, processing, and marketing prairie seed. Plus, we install prairies for customers covering about a 200-mile radius around our farmstead headquarters, which has been in our family for 140 years.
Wow.
We have seasonal employees that help us through the rush spring and fall seasons, plus neighbors that do a lot of custom and subcontracting for us. My wife, Carol, of 50 years, manages our office. And Mark Woods, our longest-running, most experienced employee since 1984, and does most of the field operations. We also have Justin Besco. He is our foreman since he graduated from Simpson College in 1995. And Kim Head is our administrative assistant, has a degree from AIB College, and does all of our clerical work in order presentations and Special, which is a software that is special real-time accounting, inventory, seed industry software. Without that, there'd be no way we could keep everything with a paper and pencil. Ed Jennings has been our warehouse manager since 1997. Keeps the crew humming, pushing orders out the door to the freight companies and for customers taking up their own seed orders. Gail Oxenreiter keeps the mixers and baggers busy in the warehouse since 2003, and did most of the cattle chores until we dispersed the cattle herd in 2012. The cattle just took too much time away from our main business at Prairie Seed. We also have Terry Miller, has a degree in accounting, and she does our accounting analyzing since 2003. So we're ready for the tax man come January. Les Fee has done our inventory control since 2003, and he also has a degree in accounting. Alan Smith is our sales consultant for 4 years and designs our mixes on the computer, since most mixes have to be designed to meet a lot of very specific government specs, and he explains to customers on the phone why our mixes are the best in the industry. Caleb Thorne brings to us the energy we need from an 18-year-old fresh out of high school, learning the business of prairie seeds from the stoop labor into things. Then there's me running a business from my office 50 feet from the bedroom I was born in 71 years ago. I attended a one-room grade school with 12 other students, completed high school, graduated from Iowa State University, and then served as a naval officer during the Vietnam War, and then come back to the farm. My objectives are the same as they've been the last 35 years, and that is to provide my customers the best prairie seed advice and service at the lowest possible cost, which is very demanding and a never-ending job. I and my employees are constantly researching, thinking, and trying new things to make our operation more efficient, faster, and provide our customers better seed, service, and advice. We also rent drills to our customers, teach customers the do's and don'ts, and keep the drills in good operating condition. We also do custom installation of prairies for our customers. The United States Department of Agriculture has a program called Conservation Reserve Program, where they rent land from landowners for 10 to 15 years if they seed it to a permanent vegetation, and the landowner's odds of getting the ground accepted into that program is better if they plant Pacific prairie mixes. The most popular prairie mixes now are pollinator mixes, heavy with forbs, which is also called wildflowers by some people, which bring in the insects, the butterflies, the honeybees, all of which are becoming extinct. We've lost over half of our honeybees, 90% of our monarch butterflies, and many other insects which do all the pollinating chores that produce up to 75% of our food we eat. This realization makes building habitat for pollinating insects a very crucial and important job dear to our bodies.
So, John, let me ask you: if I'm a farmer and I've got some vacant land, or just a landowner, and I want to plant these seeds, do you guys help me do that? You give me all the instructions I need. You're going to make sure I'm successful with it. Is that how that works?
True. We work with probably 1,000 landowners in a typical season, and with all the USDA government offices, and so we pretty well know the rules of what they need to accomplish to get accepted in the program. You have to have a certain crop history for your land to be eligible. They just created a new grassland reserve program recently where the crop history can't even be pasture or hay ground, and the rent from the government is high on those types of ground as the crop ground. But so we'll go through that with the customers. But the most important thing, once they get signed up in the program, then we go through the steps needed to plant the seed, what equipment is needed, what kind of ground preps, what kind of maintenance they need to do for the first 12 months so their seeding is successful. And we mentioned that Alan Smith is a sales consultant, but he pretty well serves the job as, and I do too. We have 5 phone lines, and so he can't guard all the lines at the same time. So I get involved in a lot more sales consulting or customer service work or order taking and the like. But anyway, a sales consultant is a little bit misleading because we spend most of our time counseling and consulting the customer about how to get a good stand, and we don't want customers having bad results, and that just in the long run that's not good. So
right. So you basically are partnering up with people to help them succeed. You're giving them a consulting service as part of the seed buy, and you're helping them create the right mix and conform to all the laws. So, I mean, you're doing a lot more than just selling seeds.
Yeah, that's right. And my wife, of course, she thinks I do way too much of that. She thinks since I spend most of my time consulting and very little time order taking, that I should be charging customers for my consulting time. But
well, I've been married to the same woman for almost 25 years, and I can tell you something that I've learned.
Yes?
My wife is always right.
Yep. Well, I tell her it's pretty hard to bill customers for consultant services, especially before they buy the seed.
Yeah.
And,
well, I mean, but that's what endears people to you. That's why they come back. That's why they want to do business with you, and then of course the expertise that you gain by dealing with thousands of property owners and farmers and the like, and all the government agencies and the folks you're talking to. I mean, you're like the center of the universe for a lot of these people. You're the nucleus of this endeavor. So I can see why they, why they would appreciate you and turn to you for advice, and I can probably see why, because you seemed like a really sweet guy, you probably get taken advantage of a little bit, but that's part of life, I guess. There's some reward in the afterlife for that, I'm sure, John.
Okay.
How long have you guys been there?
I've been in business here for 35 years, and so before that, I was farming here with my father, and but I just felt my passion in life was to try to save all this topsoil and heal up all these gullies and ditches that have developed the last 100 years. So, yeah, essentially my whole career has been here producing and processing and marketing prairie seed.
And people can come to you and find out exactly what it takes to qualify, and you can help them get whatever funding might be available to put that land into, I guess, what would you call it? Put the land in stasis? What's the right term for that?
Well, we call it put it to bed for 10 or 15 years, because
right.
Once you get it planted and do proper maintenance for the first 12 months, then it'll pretty well just take care of itself, and then let this Mother Nature kind of heal up all these gullies and ditches and these hillsides that don't have any topsoil left on them. And really not quite that simple either, because the United States Department of Agriculture says it takes 100 years to develop each 1 inch of topsoil. So,
oh my goodness. So you're going to have to live a long time, John.
Well, I hope my prairies live a long time. Of course, yeah, I'd like to live a long time too, but I'm afraid I'm getting towards the short end of the calendar on that deal.
Yeah, I understand.
Although I feel like I'm 39, I'm still healthy. But
listen, I want to thank you for doing what you can to help kind of rescue these lands and save them for future generations. I don't know that that you guys get enough applause, and I just want to, for one, as a radio guy, thank you for that, and know that we appreciate what you're trying to do for us out here. Although we don't always understand the nuances of your business, I'm sure that what you're doing is pretty important stuff. And so, like I said earlier, you guys are kind of like unsung heroes in this world of corporate farming, and everybody squeezing every nickel they can out of everything. It's just nice to know that there's somebody out there who wants to save some of it for our grandkids, and so we appreciate that. And I would just ask you real quick before we end up here tonight. Tell me a little bit about what you would do if you could just wave your magic wand. What would you do with your magic power? What would you do to change the world?
Well, I guess I would just try to make it easier to seed these prairies down with an airplane, and just let Mother Nature bring these prairie seedings on. But it's not quite that easy. I mean, I don't want to make it think it's hard. Seeding prairies has developed a very bad reputation just because people haven't been properly instructed when they buy the seed. They haven't been properly communicated with after they seed it to make these prairies successful. A lot of farmers are very busy, or landowners are very busy, and they plan it the fastest, cheapest, easiest way they can, and then they never look back for 10 years, and then it just can turn into a weed patch. And of course, the Department of Natural Resources says weeds is the best wildlife habitat there is, but most landowners that have any care for the land, they like for it to be somewhat manicured and less weeds. And so, but if you don't take proper care in the beginning, you just don't wind up with a good prairie. And so that's why we don't really police the seeding of these prairies. I think the United States Department of Agriculture could have a higher success rate if they would police these prairie plantings more, but they're working on a budget too, and so they just don't have the time to go out and really do the supervising of the planting. So that's where we come in. We spend a lot of time with our customers talking to them and going through the steps necessary, and I try to scare the daylights out of them by telling them what they need, what is absolutely necessary that first year to get the prairie started without the weeds taking over. And so I think that kind of helps the success rate if I can get someone, motivate them by giving them a little scare tactics, plus trying to convince them how beautiful it's going to be and how much soil they're going to save and all the insects that are going to develop. And most people, think of an insect as kind of an enemy, except when they swat once in a while when they land on their face. But insects are very important to all these pollinating insects to keep our food production going.
Well, Laura, I've just learned so much from the website. By the way, the website for people who want to know is prairieseedfarms.com. And John, how do people contact you by phone? I know the website has contact, but what's the phone number there?
Well, think of two numbers. It's 1-800-582-2788, or if you can just remember 800-LUCAS-88, it rings the same number. We do have 5 phone lines, voice lines. We have one fax line and one internet line, and so we try to be easy to get a hold of. It's very seldom that all 5 lines are lit up at the same time. A lot of days we'll have 4 lines lit up during the busy season. Once in a while you'll see the 5th line lit up. So, but 99% of the time you'll never get a busy signal. We always answer the phone. We don't get any fancy answer machines. You got to hit buttons 1, 2, 3, 4, signals through 10. And if you do happen to, we're open 8 to 5 Monday through Thursday, 8 to noon on Friday. But on the answer machine, it does have my voice, my cell phone number, and my cell phone is with me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So we intentionally make ourselves very readily and very easy to get a hold of.
All right, folks. So that's John, prairieseedfarms.com, John Osenbaugh. Thank you so much, sir. A privilege to meet you. A pleasure, sir.
Well, I appreciate you calling me, Roger.
Have a great and wonderful week. Take care, my friend.
Okay. Same to you. Bye.